Hello and welcome to Aapki Khabar. And as the viewers of Aapki Khabar knows very well, we have the collaboration with UP Wiki UP HR Council, and we brings the stories about regarding HR. And in this series today, we have guest as Mr. K.V.Premraj. He is 37 years experience in the banking sector, author and futuristic keynote speaker on leadership and management. And our moderator, as the viewers, the face is very well known, Bitu Dantre. She is the member of Wiki UP HR Council. Now, she will move ahead in this session with Mr. K.V.Premraj, our guest speaker. Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, Rajivji. Good evening, everyone. This is Meetu, and today I'm very happy to bring on board our guest speaker, Mr. K.V.Premraj. He is somebody with a vast experience, as Rajivji told, but I must put in a few context about Sir a little bit more, extending to that he is somebody with a banking experience of 37 years, and he is the one who's put in the SOPs for HDFC Bank and has given a lineage to the banking industry itself to how to cater the customers in a better way and how to increase the functionality of the bank itself when the employees are not getting too burdened and are also getting the results as required. Sir is also a co-author for 5 books, and he's been one of the best sellers on Amazon. He's also been working along as a blogger and has been very frequently writing on posts like Economic Times, Business Standards, Financial Express, etc. Sir is having a degree of Masters in Commerce and a Bachelor from Law. Also, he's had a certification from Indian Institute of Bankers for a diploma in financial services. It's a very big introduction that I would like to put across, but keeping time in mind, I would just welcome you, sir. I'll take this opportunity to thank you from all of our sides to have taken up this speaker's position for today's discussion. And I would like to welcome you by asking the question that how did this happen to you that financial services then gotten into the side of HR, and now you are talking about leadership as our topic today says that strategic leadership by HR. How does this incorporate?
At the outset, let me thank you, Meetu, and Rajiv for that kind introduction and the welcome. I feel it's an honor and a privilege to be part of this association and speaking on your platform. Thank you for giving that opportunity to me. And
Thank you,
to come
sir.
to the question that you asked as far as how I got from the financial sector, from the banking financial sector into the HR space and as to what I'm doing now. It's a long story. Like you mentioned, I've got 37 years in banking. As far as my banking career started, I started very low. I was the first 17 years I spent in a public sector bank. At that time, we did not have private sector banks. I started way back in 1981 in a nationalized bank. And then after about 10, 15 years, when the Reserve Bank of India opened up the space, the banking space for private sector banking, I thought it was a time where I could move because of two things. One, in a nationalized bank, the growth used to be very, very slow, and transfers used to be very, very frequent. So, and everyone works for money. Let's be honest about it. The money part also in the nationalized bank was okay, but in a private sector bank, you always know the money could be much, much higher. So, taking a gamble, I moved away from this public sector space into the private sector space. And believe me, moving into a private sector, it was not easy. जबकि nationalized bank में उनका the culture होता है. When I came to the new generation private sector bank, यहाँ पर तो culture was completely different.
Absolutely.
For some time, I was lost. I'll be very, very honest about it. और मन में ये भी होता था कि whether I would really gel into this type of culture. But yes, I was confident about myself. And then in this new private sector bank, the bank was also growing. Along with the bank, I also grew. I was in leadership positions in the branch banking sector. I had the opportunity to travel to different parts of the country too. First, mostly it was in Mumbai, in the outskirts of Mumbai, and then for 6 years, I also went outside Mumbai. I was posted in Kerala, and what happened was, while leading people in different geographies, you get a perspective of management. If you are based in only one center, उस center के तो culture everything will be one. But especially if you move out of one state to another, वहाँ पर culture completely change हो जाता है. And I experienced this in nationalized bank, because nationalized bank में भी मुझे मुंबई से अहमदाबाद भेजा गया था. अहमदाबाद जाने के बाद first time when I went to Ahmedabad, language was different, culture different, food different, people different, and that was a challenge. And दोबारा when प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक में था, जब मुझे केरला भेजा गया, उस टाइम पे it was a much more bigger shock.
Okay, is it?
And yeah, the culture and everything was a big shock. And that is where you come to learn a lot of things about strategic management that we talk about. You asked about the strategic HR management. This is where it comes. This where you won't find this in any textbook, standard textbooks. Me, you have to experience this. Or experience is one of the biggest teachers. When you go to new
True.
places, when you are not aware of उधर के culture, वो कल्चर लर्न करना इज समथिंग वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट. आई कोट एन एग्जांपल. केरला गया था तब माय कलीग्स टुक मी आउट फॉर लंच, और लंच में जब ये थाली दिया गया था, उसमें छोटे छोटे कटोरियाँ थी. तो एंड वहाँ पर तो राइस ही खाने की आदत है. तो राइस एंड आई इन वन कटोरी आई थॉट इट वाज दाल. दाल जैसे इट वाज लुकिंग एट, वो कटोरी आई पुट इन द राइस एंड आई स्टार्टेड ईटिंग. तो एकदम स्वीट लगा. तो देन सडनली आई रियलाइज मैं केरला में हूँ क्या अहमदाबाद में हूँ. अहमदाबाद में राइस में दाल में लोग पुट दैट स्वीट थिंग्स.
Correct. True.
सडनली आई वाज कंफ्यूज्ड. बाद में पता लगा व्हाट आई थॉट दाल वाज एक्चुअली अ स्वीट डिश, जो मुझे
Oh,
खाने के बाद खाना था, वो मैंने अपना राइस में मिला दिया.
no, actually, yes. These
It
kind
was
of
quite.
experiences, right?
So these are things that you learn about culture and other things. Or strategy. Come to again strategic management that you talked about. When you go around with people, you come to know them more. You come to know about what it is. And in different places in the country, they have different policies, work style. For example, Mumbai mein, we are used to working long hours. In places like Ahmedabad and Kerala, it's not that long hours. People are only conscious about working for say 7, 8, 9 hours. उसके बाद they want to go home.
They
And
have
going
their
from
punch
there,
in, punch
yeah,
out
punch
time.
in,
Like
punch out
that's
time, and they have their
yeah.
family obligation, which is very good. But places like Mumbai, mein, we are used to working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours. So that also, when you talk about experiences and other things, you need to be careful about this. And from an HR perspective, this becomes very strategic as to understand the culture of the people, culture of the place. Otherwise, you get into trouble, because there are lots of places wherein unions are strong.
True.
And if you don't go according to the culture of the place, and if you only stick to the textbook things or what the rule states, you might have a problem. Like when you talk about strategic management, again, I would quote an example as to what happened to me when I went to Kerala. First time I went to Kerala, that was in the year 2008. वहाँ पर the bank that I was working in, HDFC Bank, had taken over another bank. तो उस ब्रांच के देवर लॉट ऑफ ब्रांचेस, तो मुझे उधर भेज दिया गया था टू एंश्योर कि वहाँ के जो कल्चर गेट्स एसिमुलेटेड इनटू हमारे एचडीएफसी बैंक के कल्चर. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ दोज एम्प्लॉइज वे प्रीवियसली वे यूनियनाइज्ड. तो व्हेन वी केम टू दिस बैंक, इन आवर बैंक वी डिड नॉट हैव अ यूनियन. तो मुझे वहाँ जाने के बाद आई हैड टू मेक सम चेंजेस सो दैट people come to understand the processes of HDFC Bank, come to understand the way we work. तो मैंने विदाउट आस्किंग एनीवन, एंड आई थॉट आई डिड नॉट हैव टू आस्क बिकॉज आई वाज द बॉस देयर, सुपर बॉस देयर. तो मैंने ट्रांसफर्स के ऑर्डर्स निकाल लिए, wherein people were transferred from one branch to another, from A branch to B branch to C branch to D branch. और एवरीथिंग इन द सिटी इटसेल्फ, किसी को तकलीफ नहीं हुई, ट्रैवलिंग ज्यादा करना नहीं पड़ा, ओनली फ्रॉम ब्रांच टू ब्रांच. तो ट्रांसफर ऑर्डर तो हो गया. इंप्लीमेंट होने से पहले एक दिन सवेरे 3 gentlemen walked into my office. We belong to so and so union. वो यूनियन हमारे बैंक के यूनियन तो नहीं थे, इट वाज ऑफिस बेयरर्स ऑफ देयर यूनियन बट बेस्ड इन सम अदर बैंक्स. And they are telling me, you cannot transfer our people without talking to us, without our permission. This is the word they use, permission.
Yeah, we actually, trade union is a very tricky place to handle. It's
Yeah.
actually very tricky.
Yeah. And by that time, I was already about 8 to 10 years experience in a private sector bank, in this bank, wherein we did not have unions and wherein the boss was the final authority. So whatever decision you had to take, as long as it was in the interest of the organization and the interest of the people, कोई नहीं कुछ पूछता. तो based on this, in the interest of the organization, मैंने ट्रांसफर ऑर्डर्स निकाले थे. तो द जेंटलमैन केम, ये थोड़ा इनिशियली थोड़ा एग्रेसिव थे. उनको बिठाया, चाय वगैरह पिलाया, इधर उधर के बातें की. फिर उसके बाद मैंने उनको समझाया, यहाँ पर वी नीड टू वर्क हियर एंड आई एम श्योर यू ऑल आल्सो आर इंटरेस्टेड इन वर्किंग. And don't think just because I am a manager, because unions always have this habit wherein they feel the management is their enemy. They are out to only harass their staff members. तो उनको मैंने समझाया, I have got no intention of trying to harm your people, will not inconvenience your people. और जो भी transfer किए थे, that was in this city itself, wherein people were shuffled between 4 branches, and I showed them from year to year this person is, and I done the homework before transferring, so I knew where each of these people were staying. And in fact, in some of the places जो नया transfer था, they had to travel less than what they were transferring in the present role. तो ये सभी चारों ट्रांसफर्स जो थे, वो इनको समझाया कि ऐसे ऐसे है. I have no intention of troubling your people, and this is for the betterment of the organization, and it is also benefiting them. और ये भी बताया कि in case any of the staff members have any problems in the new posting, so they can always come to me. My doors are open. Like you already walked in, you came in without an appointment, you walked in. And as far as staff members are concerned, my number is published. They can pick up the phone and talk to me, and if I can do something, I will sort out this complaint. So this is a strategically, if you have to play this. And even though I was not part of the HR then, I had taken HR into confidence, and I was actually doing the HR ka job there.
Yeah,
Because
I was about to say that.
that's
So
because this was.
Sorry, please continue, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. So then what we're saying is, when it comes, whether it's an HR or as a management, as a strategic partner, HR as a strategic partner of an organization, you become a strategic advisor. You become a problem solver. You are a mentor and a coach, mentor to the staff members concerned, and also a coach, because when something goes wrong or if they need anything, you as an HR person or as a management are their coach, confidant, that they can come to you. And as a strategic leader, HR is in a position wherein you can influence a lot of things. As part of leadership, when you are only a manager in an organization or in a department, you don't have that much of an opportunity. But as an HR leader, you have an overarching view. You can look at a lot of other departments too. And when you are interacting with a lot of departments, different departments, you get a flavor of each of these departments, each of these business units, each of these silos. And then you become an independent leader in your own right. So I personally feel a person who is the head of HR or in a senior position in HR function is a strategic leader who is in a much better position to ensure that the organizational goals are met. And for that, that's what I call as a strategic HR leader, in a position where the CEO or the top management will be very much interested in what these people do and what they bring to the table.
Very rightly said, sir. And I was about to just state one thing over there, that tackling people strategically is something that an HR responsibility is absolute. But when it comes to taking the goals and missions of the organization and taking decisions, rather helping the management decide what's to be the next step so that the company is benefited out of the employees that they have engaged and they have invested so much upon, then how do you think that the strategizing part comes into play at that point of time? Because generally what we see is that finance is the primary thing of any organization that rather tries to give a direction to the company, that how many people to be placed, what verticals would need how much manpower, etc. But I personally feel that finance should go hand in hand with HR, where HR is going to also give a perspective analysis of what the organizational purpose is going to be futuristically, and especially when it comes to the most tangible and most important factor, that is human part of it. So how do we play that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Mitu. Yes, HR and finance need to work hand in glove. They can't work in silos. And in all organizations, the primary motive is
Correct.
profit and shareholder value. So, looking at this is what finance sets the benchmark. They will be having budgets, they will be giving budgets to each department, and likewise, there will be a budget for HR too. But what happens with HR is when you have to grow, when units have to grow, when departments have to grow, they might need more manpower to run the business, manpower for marketing expenses, manpower for a lot of other things. So, if you start your year with say 100 employees and your target was also say 100 units, and if your targets get bumped up by say 20%, you would expect a 20% rise in the number of employees. But unfortunately, what happens is the finance people may not have the leeway, or they may not give you a budget which would be 20% over what it was last year. So you have to crunch it. That's where HR comes into play. HR will have to have a tightrope walk with the departments concerned to ensure that this rise that we're talking about, 20% rise in business happens, but without the 20% rise in manpower, they might have to ensure that the manpower rises only by say 5% or 10%. But this value has to be done. So the HR will have to do the balancing act between the department concerned and the finance department. It's not an easy task. It's a very, very tough task to do. But if profitability has to be looked at, there has to be some sacrifices that will have to be made. And it is strategically that the HR's role to ensure that the departments understand and they also get the best out of the finance team. Because finally, you also need to look at what the finance team is looking after. They have the interest of the organization, and then they also need to look at the shareholder value. At the end of the year, it is a shareholder value. What is it that you're giving to the shareholders that will come into question? And for that, it will be the finance department who will be questioned. So it's a tightrope walk that has to be done, wherein HR has a very strategic role and they need to do a balancing act.
So when we are talking about these tropes act that we have to perform as a nature professional, what do you think can be the initial few basic things to be kept in mind so that neither the talent management is getting a hit for it, or neither we are going on a very slow and steady kind of procedure of handling our current situation of manpower? Rather, I must ask you, talent acquisition, how would it become a little more critical and how would strategizing it help?
See, as far as talent acquisition is concerned, it's not very easy because the same talent pool is being hunted down by a lot of other organizations too.
True.
And the best people that you have are in demand, and the ones who are not that good are available, but that is not what will really help you. And I remember one of Steve Jobs statements who said, why is that Apple is such a great product? Because they have managed to ensure that they get the best talents,
Yes, talents, right.
and the best talent don't come cheap. You have to pay top price for it. So that's one of the reasons that I say, when you have talent, in-house talent, it will be much easier to grow the in-house talent rather than get talent from outside. A couple of things that I would like to mention here is, if it's an in-house talent, reskill that person, upskill that person, so that that person also comes up to the mark of that organizational needs, rather than going outside. Because when you go outside and get some top talent, there is a lot of inherent risk. One of the risks is the other employees in the organization whom you could have reskilled and whom you could have brought up to the curve might feel disappointed, might feel dejected. उनको ये लगने लगेगा कि व्हाट इज इट, कि मेरे में क्या कमी थी कि मुझे उन्होंने सिलेक्ट नहीं किया या मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटीज दिया नहीं गया. एंड व्हेन अ न्यू पर्सन कम्स इन, दैट पर्सन आल्सो, it takes time to settle into an organization. Every single organization has a different culture. और उस कल्चर में इम्बाइब होने के लिए, जेल होने के लिए, एक नया जो इंडिविजुअल होगा उनको एटलीस्ट 3 to 6 months लगते हैं. तो उस 3 to 6 months के टाइम पे आप प्रोडक्टिविटी देख नहीं सकते हो.
Correct.
एंड वो 3 महीने या 6 महीने के बाद देर इज नो गारंटी ये बंदा स्टिक विल स्टिक अराउंड. He might feel this culture is not up to what he had expected. See, whenever a new person comes, he comes with a set mindset कि ये organization में this will be the culture, this is what I'm looking from the organization, this is what I expect the organization to do for me. But अगर 3 महीने 6 महीने में if it doesn't find that organization fits the culture that he or she thought it should be, so then there is
Disconnect happens.
disconnect. So the disconnect will lead to quitting or looking for another job or lack of interest. And there's another statistic that I was reading which said 32, and this is a Gallup statistic, isn't by fact, 32% of employees quit within the first 3 to 6 months of a new job because they don't fit into the culture of the organization. So it's essential
Big
that,
number.
yeah, you try to get your internal people itself trained to take up responsibilities and new jobs.
So basically, that's the way to go, because we would cut upon that hibernation time that a new person is going to
Yes.
attend to. Then the cultural misfit, that kind of requirements would obviously obviate because the person is already working, and there would be a high motivation for the team altogether from whichever part of the team that person has come up to a certain level where he would find, okay, if I grow myself, the company is also assisting me to do so. A very very important point for any organization to keep in mind. So now my next question comes to sir, that during HR has always been there, at least for past 25 years people have started hearing the term human resource. That was not there previous to
True.
3 decades, I presume, mostly. क्योंकि एचआर को ऑलवेज यू नीड टू हैव अ से एंड यू नीड टू हैव अ सीट at the table, whereas I believe that that is my table, that I am supposed to bring other people on, because we are the ones who are bringing the calibering the company, not taking a high end road for that. But yes, that is my belief, that it is always there, the presence of HR, otherwise it won't work. All the nuts in the jobs have to work together. So nowadays, when recent episodes have happened, that COVID hit us, and then now the things have changed. HR was the only HR was the only function that had to take the complete charge. But now what we are seeing, that post COVID, now when the companies are asking again the employees to come back to the same step up, rather, to come back to the working spaces and to behave in a certain manner for what they have not just done for 2 years. Now the things are very abrupt on the employee end. Now we have younger generations who want things in that particular manner only. I would only work for 5 days. I would not be comfortable working for from office every day. I need a hybrid or a work from home. Though I am a believer that work from home is also giving the best of their caliber. They are not just taking a backseat if you're working from home. But how do we deal strategically with this issue where the younger demographics have to be engaged more, and they have to be more participative and more enthusiastic about coming back to the offices and working from there. How would HR strategizing help there?
Yeah, that's a good question again, Mitu. And see what we need to think about. COVID has been a game changer. See, many of the things that COVID forced us to do might have happened even if COVID had not come, but it would have taken say about 7, 5, 7, 10 years. But
Correct.
COVID fast forward everything. And when we say fast forward, it was just abrupt. I think it was on the 23rd of March 2020, wherein our Prime Minister announced a lockdown and everyone had to work from home. And when that happened, were we ready? No,
Not at all.
not at all. No one was ready. But then the human ingenuity, like it is said, na, necessity is the mother of invention. That's what kicked in. We had whatever little office space we had, whether it was a dining table. Not everyone had big houses wherein you could spare an extra room to work. So you had, and especially if the husband and wife were working, they had to find different corners in the house to work. And then we have those umpteen Zoom calls.
Correct.
Umpteen Zoom calls. And then when you're in the house, and especially when you have younger children or older parents, you can't ask for silence. So when the call is going on, you have a child screaming in the background. You have sometimes the maid servant coming to sweep your floor, and all those things happened. So that was the management that one had to do. What the things that one had to do the adjustments. Suddenly, from working in a structured office environment, you were working from home or in a remote location, wherein everything may or may not have been available. The working from home gave great advantages. For example, in bigger cities, working from home ensured that you don't have to travel for long. But in smaller cities, there were problems like you did not have
Net.
uninterrupted power.
Correct.
So how is it that you work? And the younger generation, most of the younger generations who were recruited during the COVID period, their onboarding also happened during the COVID period. So they don't know what an structured office is. For them, they started working in the COVID team in work from home atmosphere. So suddenly, when after the COVID restrictions got taken back, and slowly people were asked to come to office, either in a selective way or some places wherein everyone was asked to come. In other places, it was a gradual process. So this new generation, the Gen Z or the baby boomers, found it a bit difficult. The baby boomers, at least they had worked in organizations previously, but it's a Gen Z who had never worked anywhere who found a bit disconcerting. And disconcerting because the first time they were coming and working in a structured way. Because when you work from home, all said and done, you have the freedom and the liberty to do a lot of things. But when you come to office in a structured way, then there are lots of restrictions, right? Even from the from dressing at home, you can wear what you want or not wear anything too. But when you go to an office, there has to be some decorum wherein dress sense has to happen. Then you also need to follow the procedure, get along with people, your colleagues, and other things. So the Generation Z felt a bit disconcerted, but then that the organization also has to go halfway through to meet them, mentor them, coach them, and ensure that they get into the system. And this is where organization also need to take a call whether not do this abruptly. For almost 2 years, people were working from home. So when work from office starts, and most organizations have done it well, they only started calling people from critical departments to come to office first, and others were given a liberty. And many progressive organizations have also given liberty to people to come to office, say 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and even the timings too. The fluctuating timings have been given to them rather than a fixed timing. So organizations have also gone out of the way to help these people. But the Gen Z needs to be aware of what an organization is, how an organization works, and they also should go halfway to meet them. And talking about Gen Z, we need to be aware within a couple of years, this population, this percentage of population, and I was
They
reading somewhere by the year 2026, 27% of the workforce will be Gen Z, and that will be the largest segment. And what happens is when we look at it, we have people now in their 50s and 60s still working. Then we have in the 30s and 40s, then we have baby boomers, and then we have the Gen Z. So there are 4 or 5 different sects of people working in an organization, and it's a tough call for an HR to ensure that you get work done from all these segments of people. And Gen Z could be the most disruptive force because one, they don't live to work or work to live. You need to understand the difference between this. Most of our generation, we work to live, but the new generation that comes in, they are living to work. This is a generation, the Gen Z, they don't have to work because one, their house is set up, their parents or grandparents have set up their houses. As far as finances are concerned, roti khana makan bikan sab ka intezam ho gaya hai. Now what they get the money is for their lifestyle, for all those branded clothes, branded watches, branded glasses, branded shoes. खाने पीने का तो इंतजाम घर पर हो ही जाता है. So then they don't care about it. They are the ones who will disrupt the system. And while disrupting the system, they will also bring in fresh ideas. And this fresh ideas that will ensure that we grow. And what is called as the demographic dividend that we talk about. It is this
Yes.
generation, it is this Gen Z generation that will bring the demographic dividend for us. And as of now, we are the fifth biggest economy in the world. And very soon, when this generation comes up, we can easily become the second or the third biggest country as far as GDP is concerned in the world. So this is a
Absolutely.
demographic dividend that we need to encash. We need to show them the right track, and the Gen Z will ensure India rules the world.
Very well put, sir. Actually, this is a very important point for nowadays scenario, because when you say this, that till now we were five different bandwidth of age groups who were working together, and it had been a problem if you yourself have shifted from private to public to private. You must have noticed when the shift happens, people of certain age might be superior to you designation per se, and you would say that okay, my experience was better. Then when why did it happen? But when Gen Z's come into play, all these things just get tend to diminish, and there comes the strategic attitude of an HR to how to put them into their um, demands and the culture fitment without making it offensive. Probably offensive is not the right word, but making it a little uncomfortable for the rest of the group that they have to be imbibed with. So, very well put. Actually, this is a great topic to discuss at
And another
length.
thing, also, one thing that I feel, if we give importance to this Gen Z, and this is where HR role comes in, we can ensure that these people become leaders very fast. And one thing, these guys are very, very good with technology, and technology is going to rule the world. And I mentioned about the other generations that we have in the workforce. If these people are tasked to teach the others, the older generation, how to navigate this technological minefield, they will feel important. They will teach those people, and when those teaching, when these people become the role model for the older generation, you will find synergies happening together, and then that will be a great workplace to work in.
Yes, and the synergy word is the prime actually over here, that is needed and rightly pointed. This is where the experience counts, and what it says is true. That this kind of a generation, rather the kind of bandwidth of people we have right now at the stage, it is very easy for us to develop. Rather, we are already developing technologically very fast, and simultaneously, if they are given an incubation period where they can understand working around, so they have a better mindset of, because they are very goal driven also, they exactly know what they want, so they are very much focused, and they would rather prove to be very good leaders in a very small span of time. This is a
True.
very interesting topic on its own. We would take it up sometime later as well. So, just not time enough, sir, but I would like to put in the last question that essentially, according to you, what should be the focus of an HR to develop these strategic understandings in their department itself, so that futuristically they can produce better strategic leaders in HR itself and verticals other than HRS also.
See, HR should be more of a servant leader rather than trying to push their agenda. HR needs to understand they are part of the organization. Well, in many times, what happens is the staff members are not very comfortable talking to the HR people. So the HR people needs to reach out, and especially people in the lower levels of HR needs to reach out to the staff members in other departments or the department that they're handling. They go out more as a friend and advisor rather than passing on the diktats of the management, and also trying to explain. They should try to explain to the staff members as to why some of the policies that have been forced down on employees, the reason for those employees. For example, we mentioned about the hybrid work in nature. Then we mentioned about the 3-4 days work. Those things the HR needs to explain to people, and HR also needs to go more to meet these employees. For example, in bigger cities, you find commuting is a problem.
Correct.
So if HR finds out if there is an opening, or if someone has to travel for long distances, can be posted in a place wherein he or she doesn't have to travel for too long, then it's a win-win situation for the organization and for the person too. HR needs to ensure that they move into the heads of employees to ensure that they are a friend, philosopher, and guide rather than just someone who has the authority to influence their lives. If that happens, if that is passed on to the employees, then you will feel HR has done a job, and there will be an organization that will be a great place to work.
Thank you so much, sir. A really amazing session, I must say. And if you would have some closing remarks, that would really make it a whole absolute discussion of its own.
See, HR has got a great role to play as far as any organization concerned. They are the leaders. They should think of themselves as leaders, behave as leaders, take people along with them, and then you will find not only have they done a great job, you will find the employees looking up to them, and then you will find the organizations that they are working will shoot up the ladder in those great places to work with. So the ball is in the court of the HR team. It's how they deliver. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for such a good closing remark. That ball is in our court. As an HR fraternity, we need to lead people not on the basis that we have the authority that has been given by the management, but also we have to bridge in between the employee and the management in a way that it becomes a very cordial kind of a functionality, and it develops into a relationship that is a long term one, and it both helps the employees as well as the employer to have a growth what they expect of themselves. Thank you so much for your session today, sir. Great
Thank
having
you.
you on our platform. I would
Pleasure
just
being there.
like Rajiv ji to take it up and close it today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really, I was also enjoying the session, and I was hearing every verse of Premraj sir. And the most important thing was given the example of apple. मैं सोच रहा था इस बात को कि कई बार हम लोगों के भी साथ में ये होता है कि कई सारे एम्प्लॉइज होते हैं जिनको हम बहुत ज्यादा ट्रेन करते हैं, उसके बाद में वो फिर कहीं और चले जाते हैं। तो मैं सोच रहा था इस बात को, आखिर ऐसा क्यों होता है, क्यों? उसका तो मुझे आज जवाब मिल गया कि क्यों चले जाते हैं लोग, और क्या ऐसी चीजें, क्योंकि स्किल्ड तो करना ही होगा। अगर आप स्किल्ड नहीं करें, एक बार मैं चाहूंगा कि वो एग्जाम्पल जो आपने दिया था एप्पल का, वो हिंदी में थोड़ा सा व्यूअर्स को बता देगा, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है।
तो स्टीव जॉब्स का ये कहना था कि दे आर एप्पल इज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट कंपनीज इन द वर्ल्ड। वो एक्सीडेंटली नहीं हुआ, उनके बीच में देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ थॉट बिहाइंड दैट। और वो थॉट ये था कि इफ यू हैव टू बी द बेस्ट, जो एम्प्लॉयज आपके हैं वो एम्प्लॉयज भी बेस्ट होनी चाहिए। तो अगर एम्प्लॉयज को या तो दे ट्रेन देमसेल्व्स, या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आने के बाद उनको इतना ट्रेनिंग दिया जाता है कि दे बिकम द बेस्ट, और वो जो ट्रेनिंग, दे आर ट्रेन्ड इन द बेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी दैट इज अवेलेबल, द बेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी दैट मनी कैन बाय, जिसके वजह से दे फील कॉन्फिडेंट कि दे कैन गो आउट इन द वर्ल्ड एंड कॉन्कर द वर्ल्ड। और आप देखें तो एप्पल के जो प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, एनी गिवन प्रोडक्ट you cannot beat as far as quality is concerned, because उनका ये है innovation. Innovation is the cornerstone of Apple. वो Apple के innovation has come because they believe कि they are the best, और वो जो एम्प्लॉयज में इनकलकेट किया गया है कि उनसे बेहतर है, उनसे अच्छा कोई नहीं हो सकता है, ये जो कॉन्फिडेंस जो मैनेजमेंट में उनमें दिया है, दैट इज समथिंग जो डिफरेंशिएटर है।
अच्छा, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि कितनी सारी कंपनीज आ गई, लेकिन एप्पल जहां था उससे और बेटर ही होता जा रहा है, कंपटीशन कुछ भी नहीं है। आपने उसका बहुत ही अच्छा एग्जांपल दिया, और आपने ये भी बताया कि स्किल्ड हम अपने जितने भी हैं उनको ट्रेनिंग डे बाय डे हम ट्रेनिंग देते रहें। और मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा सर कि मीतू जी से मेरी बात भी हुई थी कि ये सबसे बड़ी कमी हमारे सेक्टर में है। मीडिया सेक्टर में ट्रेनिंग बहुत ही रेयर केसेस में दी जाती है, और इसी जो रीजन है कि जो कंपटीशन लेवल है वो आपस में ही कंपटीशन करते रहते हैं, लेकिन जो बेस्ट है वो बेस्ट बना रहता है, उसके आसपास भी कोई नहीं जाता है। मैं ये आपसे फिर से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि जैसा कि टाइम आपने दिया है, मित्र जी ने रिक्वेस्ट किया था, मैं चाहूंगा कि इस तरीके से जो सेशन है वो छोटे छोटे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के लिए भी बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं, क्योंकि उनके लिए सर्वाइवल बहुत ही टफ हो जाता है। उनके पास इतना बड़ा स्ट्रक्चर नहीं होता है कि उनके पास में बहुत बड़ी सी टीम हो, लेकिन अगर एक छोटी सी टीम हो, स्किल्ड टीम हो। लेकिन सर एक पॉइंट और मैं पूछना चाहूंगा कि स्किल करने के बाद में उनको रोका कैसे जाए, इस पे भी जरा प्लीज थोड़ा सा बताएं।
इसमें रोकने के लिए टेक्निक्स है। जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है, दे एम्प्लॉइज को ये होना चाहिए कि दे बिलोंग टू दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। जो सेंस ऑफ बिलोंगिंग है वो इनकलकेट करने के लिए एचआर और मैनेजमेंट को थोड़ा बहुत मेहनत करना पड़ेगा। और अगर एम्प्लॉय को अगर जो फीलिंग आ गया कि आई बिलोंग टू दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन केयर्स फॉर मी, वो जो केयरिंग एटीट्यूड अगर उनको लग गया तो फिर कभी कहीं नहीं जाएंगे। और इट इज नॉट मनी दैट मैटर्स। और अब के जो हमने न्यू जनरेशन के बारे में भी बात किया, जो न्यू जनरेशन है, 62% ऑफ द न्यू जनरेशन पीपल आर नॉट वर्किंग फॉर मनी, दे आर वर्किंग फॉर the experience that they will get in the organization and their career development. तो रोकने के लिए if the most important thing that caring and that belonging attitude अगर मिल गया तो कहीं नहीं जाएंगे।
सुपर, बहुत अच्छा।
And we've already talked about this.
जितने जो सेशन गए हैं, मुझे मीतू जी आपका बहुत बहुत थैंक्स कि ये बहुत ही सबसे अच्छा सेशन है ये, मतलब मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। सर बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका।
सर ने बहुत अच्छे से टाइम दिया एंड वेरी मच इंटरेस्टिंग ही मेड इट, और अपने एग्जाम्पल्स कोट करके उस चीज को बेहतर कम्युनिकेट कर पाए अपने व्यूअर्स को हम लोग। Thank you so much, sir. I really felt it was a very good session today and really had very many takeaways also. And as discussed, we would definitely like to bring you again to our platform in the near future and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And looking forward to meeting you all again, Meetu and Rajiv.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.